Running a business shouldn't feel like surviving a software group project. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in, an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together, from sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, all in one powerful platform. No messy integrations, no bouncing between tabs, and best of all, no spreadsheets. Stop managing software and start managing your business with one unified system. Try for free today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashlie Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm excellent.
Today we're going to talk about how a lot of first responders feel like therapy is this totally foreign language, and I want to talk about some of the reasons why.
I think it really does, because in my mind, like first hearing about this and thinking about it, it's, we go out and solve people's problems on a regular basis. We are people's therapists. We are their psychologists. We are their parents. You plug in the blank here and this is what we do for others on a regular basis because we wear so many different hats. But when we're sitting on the opposite end of it, it changes the dynamic substantially.
I have worked with so many clients who have told me that they had walked into a therapist's office once and then they never went back. And after discussing this on repeat, it seems like with so many different people, they all have the same response to where they have this experience of sitting across from somebody who they genuinely want to help, but they have absolutely no frame of reference for the world that's being described to them.
And that's one of the biggest things is how can we expect someone else to understand of what we've experienced, what we've been through, when they don't know any sense of reality when it comes to it? Like, I couldn't sit in front of somebody that's never been in this realm and is oblivious to the world of what goes on. Like, if I sat down, and I'm going to use my mom as an example, say my mom was a psychiatrist and I went to go talk to her and I started telling her about the experiences and what I've seen and what I've been through throughout my career, like, she would have no response to that and being able to understand of how people could do what they do and the exposure associated to that.
Yeah, it's just like having, I guess if we can put this in the realm of modern medicine, right? Like a primary care physician versus a specialist. And a lot of first responders don't consider it that way. And so they may have had the strength and the courage to finally go to that appointment only to realize like, oh shit, I'm never going back. When in reality, it's because they perhaps chose the wrong one. And, a lot of first responders don't have that explained to them. And there are so many different options that are available nowadays that there's no reason to not find something that's literally going to be a perfect fit for you. And it's not that therapy doesn't work for a lot of people. I think that it's that therapy is actually designed for the general population, and it often fails to account for specific cultures and the specific trauma, the language, and the specific resistance patterns of a person that's wearing a badge or even carrying a hose. And so how do I say this? So I know I know an individual who was a police officer who was probably, in my opinion, one of those police officers who should have never been a police officer, the kind that puts other officers at risk, who later decided to kind of shift up and shake up his career as a police officer, and then later decided to get into psychotherapy and is now trying to be able to create this first responder psychotherapy practice. Now, if it were me and a client came to me and they obviously, whether it's because something they shared or something that I identified, wanted to see a therapist instead, or needed to even, I would recommend that they not only seek out somebody who has experience working with first responders, but that also has recommendations from other people who have actually worked with that individual. I would never refer anybody to this individual who used to be a cop who is now trying to practice as a psychotherapist, just because I know that they weren't a very good cop at all.
Yeah, because when you're not exposed and you don't have this understanding, you don't have the mindset and the frame of mind of being able to understand of this is the exposure that we've gone through. This is what I've done. This is what I've seen. This is what is affecting me. You can't talk to someone that doesn't have, I mean, here's a perfect example. I remember when I was doing the internet crimes against children type of investigations, and we had a quarterly meeting with the task force wide, and they brought in a psychiatrist during one of the trainings that we had to kind of say, as a mental health, to check on everybody, to be able to give some tools and to bring, she spent the 45 minutes she was talking, she spent 35 of those minutes talking about why she's qualified to be doing this with us who are in this field specifically. And all she was trying to do is explain herself. And what her explanation was, I'm like, there's not a single person who was in that group with us. I was like, yeah, you don't know anything of what we've seen or experienced. And it's not that she needed to necessarily, but it's, if you have to spend that much time trying to rationalize why you're here, there's something wrong with that.
So the psychological concept that you just explained is actually called therapeutic misattunement. And it happens when a clinician fails to accurately understand or reflect on that lived experience of the person that they're trying to treat.
And ultimately, I can tell, and I talked to multiple people after this, is they're like, yeah, that made me not want to ever talk to anybody if I had something come up. And that's where, like Ashlie was saying, like you start seeing this, is it leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. That's where we start saying, okay, well, if that's how they all are, why am I going to waste my time and go talk to somebody about it?
Yeah, and it's because this is what it often looks like. So, you got up the courage, you called, you made the appointment, the angst built up, you showed up to the appointment, whether it was in person or remotely, and you sit down and you're face to face with this stranger, and then it could be a therapist who has never worked with a first responder who ends up asking questions that to you feel like they're super irrelevant or even naive.
Yeah, because when they're asking those questions, you're like, well, I don't care about that. Like, they're not asking you anything that is in down the field that you would even want to talk about, or because maybe you don't even know what the problem is, but they're going down such a far rabbit hole that's so far from what you truly need. It leaves that unsurety in your own self, because you're like, I don't necessarily know. I know there's something wrong, but I don't even know how to get to there. And they go way off on this other side.
Yeah. And, I think that an example of this for me is anytime that I've had to seek out modern medical treatment, when I hear the way that the doctor is speaking to me, it instantly feels condescending. And I understand they're covering a wide average of individuals in the way that they present their vernacular to people. But I take great offense at points when I hear the way that they're speaking to me or how they're asking me questions, especially when a few sentences have gotten out of my mouth. You should be able to gauge kind of where I'm at and where you're at. And so when you start speaking to me in a way that feels condescending, for a lot of first responders, especially, they're going to start feeling more guarded in that room than they were on the worst shift of their career.
Yeah, because you start putting up those barriers, you're like, well, I'm done with this. This is stupid. Like as you were talking about that, I was visualizing you have one of those doctors that come into the room and they start, they don't even ask you questions. Oh, you're here for this, and you're like, yep. And you try explaining it, and they start dictating that conversation instead of letting you actually express what's going on so they can diagnose whatever it may be. And they don't let you get in a word edgewise, like get up and walk out. Like what would stop you from getting up and walking out?
I'm glad you said that, because one way that you probably know that it's time for you to switch to somebody else is if you spend more time explaining your world than actually processing it. And
when you're having to talk about yourself and meaning of when the doctor is trying to understand and receive this information, but it's taking you, say you have an hour sit down with that psychiatrist with it, and you spend 45 minutes just describing, okay, well, first kind of my day starts out this way. This is what we experience on a regular basis. And you have to lay a foundation with them. Every time you're going to have to lay that foundation before you talk to them. And that the whole point is to be able to get out what the trauma is, that get out whatever's bugging you, whatever you're holding in out, instead of having to just talk about what you do for a living.
And there are ways to find support that actually works for first responders. Of course, seek a clinician that has specific first responder or law enforcement experience. But what I've seen work for a lot of people is to just find therapists who use body-based approaches alongside talk therapy. I know so many people who have had amazing benefits with EMDR and different somatic therapy practices. And, nervous system focused treatment is so important when you're a first responder. And in this world that we live in nowadays, there's literally no reason for us to not take advantage of everything that we can. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to you.
Jerry is changing the way people think about car insurance. For people who like to save or just shop smarter, that change already happened. With Jerry, you're not locked into a policy that auto-renews. Reshop anytime by comparing up to 20 quotes side by side and switch, all in the app. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry save over $1,300 a year on average. You'll probably be the first one you know to use it, which makes you the smartest friend in the group. Download Jerry today.
Of course.